Shalom everyone, I'm going to continue this awesome series of the Yalkut Yosef, the Shabbat halacha. At the moment, it's just a beautiful weather. I can breathe so well at the moment. We've had some showers over here. We're in the middle of in the winter in Rosh Chodesh Adar. We're continuing this series over here. And nothing like just by a coffee shop over here. You can see the hills right behind me, the greenery and the fresh air. And just in a bakery at the moment, just having a nice morning coffee. And no better way of sharing over some words of the Yalkut Yosef, of continuing this series over here, which is in memory of Rabbi Leo D's wife and his two daughters over here. So excuse me about the noise, there's a supermarket right next to me. I actually said a blessing on this already, so don't think I'm not saying a bracha over here, but it's a very good coffee over here. And what better way to energize the day than to start off? We are actually friends. Where are we now in the halacha? We are actually making very, very good progress at the moment, because at the moment we talked about, the last thing was lamp on a tree. That was the last thing, and now we are entering Siman 278, so making fantastic progress here. We're still in the middle of the first volume over here, but let's see how we can do. Kibui haneh b'shvil hacholeh. Someone's sick on Shabbat and the lights are on in the house and he wants to go to sleep. It's going to be problematic, so let's see what the din is over here. Okay, halacha aleph of Siman 278. Turning off lights for someone that is ill. What's the din? I'm using the Saka edition over here. I recommend everyone to buy one. חולה שיש בו סכנה, שהאור מפריע לו לישון, ואי אפשר להעביר את החולה לחדר אחר. מותר לכבות את הנר או את החשמל כדי שהחולה שיש בו סכנה והשינה יפה לו יכול לישון. Okay, so we've got someone that's in a dangerous, ill situation over here. He can't go to sleep because the lights are on over here, and there's no other room to move him to over here. So seemingly over here, you are able. So it says mutar lechabot et haneh or et hachashmal kedei shelo. So what's it saying over here? Something big. Over here. If he can't move to another room, it's over here. There's a problem over here. If someone is desperately ill and the light in his room prevents him from falling asleep, then you should be moved to an unlit room if possible, or the lamp should be moved to another room. Although moving a lit lamp on Shabbat is asur, since the lamp is muktzeh, it is preferable to transgress that prohibition rather than extinguish the lamp over here. That will be the eitzah over here, to do that over here, seemingly. וצריך שיכבה את הנר או את החשמל בשינוי, שלא כדרך שעושה כן בכל, או כגון שיכבה את האור החשמל במרפקו ולא ביד. ואם אפשר לטלטל את הנר מחוץ לחדר, עדיף שיעבור על איסור טיטול מוקצה מאשר יעבור על איסור כיבוי בשבת. Although moving a lit lamp on Shabbat is forbidden, since the lamp is muktzeh, it is preferable to transgress that prohibition rather than to extinguish the lamp. If neither of these solutions are possible, one may extinguish the light in his room to enable him to relax and to sleep. However, one should extinguish it in an unusual manner, such as, let's say, flipping the light switch with an elbow instead of one's hand, so that you should do that with the elbow instead of one's hand. That will be the eitzah over here. Because remember, you've got to do b'derech shinui over here with a change over here. So by doing it with the elbow, with the hand, naturally will symbolize a change. Now we're talking about halacha bet over here, turning on lights for someone that is ill. So can you do that or not? Different opinions over here. חולה מסוכן שיש צורך להדליק עבורו את האור החשמל ואין אפשרות אחרת להצלתו מפאת החשיכה, מותר להדליק אור בשבת. ואם יש אור בחדר השני ואפשרי להעבירו לחדר אחר, עדיף לעשות כן, אלא אם כן עיכוב הטיפול בו עלול לגרום לסכנה. So friends, what's going on over here? If let's say the situation is that someone is desperately ill and it's necessary to turn on a light in order to treat him over here. You need the light over here, he needs to be seen. And he cannot be moved to a room where there already is light over here. Or if moving him would cause, let's say, for God forbid, a life-threatening delay in his treatment, one may turn on the light on Shabbat over here, because we're talking about here, naturally it's a dangerous situation, so it will be allowed. Okay. So now we are in a new Siman, already 279. That was a very, very short Siman over there. And now Siman 279. מה נשמע? מצוין, ראיתי את סרטים או? אוקיי, מצוין. אוקיי, ההלכה א', אסור לצלצל בשבת נר דולק, אף אם יצלצל בנחת, שהרי נעשה בסיס לדבר אסור. וקבע נתבעה לאל שנה שבירכו עליו ועד לכבוד שבת אסור ליגע בו. Okay, carrying a lit lamp, are you allowed to carry a lamp that is already lit on Shabbat or not? Tiltul hanet b'Shabbat, this is what they're free. It's forbidden to carry a lit oil lamp or candle from place to place on Shabbat, even if one is very careful not to cause it to go out. The lamp itself is muksa, since it is a base upon which a forbidden object, the flame, rests. As explained above, the lights kindled to fulfill the mitzvah of Shabbat lights are mukta from the moment they are kindled and may not be moved from their place over here. So it's not going to be allowed for those reasons. Halacha bet now. Carrying an oil lamp on Shabbat, is that allowed? קערה שנותנים בתוכה שמן ובתילה ומדליקים בה נר שבת. אין לטלטל את הקערה בשבת גם לאחר שהפתילה כבתה, וגם אם נשאר בקערה מעט שמן, אין לטלטל את השמן או להסתפק ממנו באותו שבת, אף אם רוצה לטלטל הקערה מפני שצריך לה או שצריך למקומו. What's going on? If someone kindles an oil lamp on Friday afternoon to burn on Shabbat, it's forbidden to move that lamp for the duration of that Shabbat, even after the flame has gone out. So even if there's no flame over here, you cannot move it. It is forbidden even if one needs to use the place where the lamp is sitting, or if one wants to use the lamp for some permissible purpose over here. If some oil is left in the lamp, it's forbidden to remove it or to use that oil for any purpose on that specific Shabbat. The key word here is on that Shabbat, because seemingly it could be allowed on the next Shabbat. Halacha Gimel. Previous stipulations you make. Im hatana me'erev Shabbat al ner ze shitiltenu karshe yichaber mutar litiltelo achar shane kiba v'nachon she'aseh et hatanai samuch l'shkia v'shi'u'il lo hatanai l'kol hashana. If someone declared before Shabbat began that he wishes to be able to move the lamp after the flame has been extinguished, then it is permitted. It is most proper to make this declaration shortly before the Shabbat begins. And it is recommended to include all the Shabbatot of the year in the declaration. So if you're making a specific stipulation, have in mind that you're doing the whole year for all those Shabbats over there. Well, I think we brushed on this before also. Candlesticks over here. What's the din over there? Dalet. V'adin lepamotim shenotnim betocham nerot shava umadlikim et hanerot shebeh שאסור לטלטלם בשבת. אפילו אחת שהנרות כיבו, ואפילו אם צריך לגופם או למקומם. What's going on here? It's likewise forbidden on Shabbat to move candlesticks in which candles were burning on Shabbat, even after the candles have gone out. It's forbidden even if one needs to use the place where the candlesticks are sitting, or even one wants to use the candlesticks for some permissible purpose of it. אבל פמותים שלא הדליקו בהם באותו שבת, מותר לצלצלם לצורך גופם או מקומם. Okay, if the candlesticks were not used davka specifically on this Shabbat, then it's going to be allowed to move them if one needs to use the place where the candlesticks are sitting, or if one wants to use the candlesticks for some other purpose of it, then it's going to be allowed over here to do that, because you haven't naturally used it for the lighting the Shabbat. Okay. אבל אם הם עשויים מזהב שאדם מקפיד עליהם שלא להשתמש בהם לצריכים אחרים ומקצה להם מקום מיוחד, אסור לצלצלם אפילו לצורך גופם ומקומם, אף אם לא הדליק בהם באותו שבת ונר שעבר וקדומה שלא הדליקו בו באותו שבת, מותר לצלצלו בשבת לצורך גופו או מקומו. Okay, maybe we continue. Okay, likewise, a candle that was not lit at all on this specific Shabbat may be moved if one needs its place, or if one wishes to use it for some permissible purpose of it. If the candlesticks are made of gold and would not even want them to be moved from their designated place, therefore their level of muksa is more stringent. Even if they were not used at all for this Shabbat, they may not be moved even if one needs to use the place where they are sitting, or if one wants to use them for some permissible purpose over here. There's a footnote, the second edition says over here, once someone has kindled the lights that are specifically for the mitzvah of honoring the Shabbat, the lights over which the blessing is recited, it's forbidden to move those lights from the place designated for them, even if one has not yet accepted upon oneself the sanctity of the Shabbat, and one continues to perform any act of malacha. One may not move these lights, for they have assumed the status of muksa for the mitzvah for which they are being used over here. So it's very, very important over here, this thing. Okay, halacha hey now, candlesticks on the tray. Can you move that over here? It's on the tray. Is that problematic also? אם מניח מערב שבת את הפמוצים על גבי מגש מיוחד שיחדו תמיד להנחת נרות ונותן אותו על השולחן אף אם יש על המגש דבר יותר חשוב מהפמוצים וצריך לאותו דבר בשבת אסור לטלטל את המגש עם הפמוצים שעליו אף לאחר שנרות כיבו. You know, I always put my candlesticks on a tray, which we light on Shabbat. So what's it? If someone places the Shabbat candlesticks on a tray that is used specifically for the kindling of the Shabbat lights, that tray may not be moved on Shabbat, even after the candles have gone out. You can't do it. This is so, even if one places an item that is more precious than the candlesticks on the tray, and even if one plans to use that item on Shabbat itself, even if you've got something more chashuv over here, still it's going to be problematic over here. Okay, the tray may not be moved even if one needs its place or even if one wishes to use it for some other purpose. If he knows he will need to move it on Shabbat, he should declare his intentions before Shabbat actually commences over here, and then it will be permitted once the candles have gone out, as explained above in halacha number 3 over here. So only in that circumstance it should be. Now what we're talking about over here, now what if you need to change the tablecloth of a shulchan over here? You want to change the tablecloth on Shabbat, on the table. You've got to make a stipulation for Shabbat. או שעה דברים החשובים לו יותר מעניין באופן שאין לו לחם במטבח או מאכל חשוב לו מאוד יותר מעניין ואז השולחן יהיה כבסיס לדבר האסור והמותר ואם צריך למקום השולחן או להסיר את המפה רשאי לטלטל את הנרות לאחר שנרות כיבו ועלם במגש סתם שיש שם גם לחם מותר לטלטל למגש אגב הלחם לאחר שנרות כיבו. Okay, so friends, what's going on over here? We're talking about if someone places a Shabbat candlesticks and a loaf of bread on a tray that is used for other purposes as well. So you've got not just for the candlesticks, this massive tray, let's say, you're putting it also, let's say for example, for chashuv things. According to Ramah, one may place a loaf of bread on the tray before Shabbat begins, even if the tray is designated for holding the Shabbat candlesticks. And then the tray becomes a basis for both, let's say, permissible things and forbidden items. As such, it may be moved once the candles are extinguished. So if the candles are extinguished over here, then you can, at that stage in time, that window of time, you've got to wait till that time seemingly, then you can move it because you've got something more important on the thing. Okay. The bedside Shema on Friday night. What's the din with regards to that? Naturally, every night we say Kriyat Shema before we go to sleep. Our lips should be moving with Torah before we fall asleep. And we've got to say Kriyat Shema al Mita. Okay, halacha vav. Gam b'leil Shabbat tzarich likro Kriyat Shema she'al hamita kamo b'kol layla. Okay, so also on Shabbat evening, just like every other evening, we have to do it before we go to sleep. Kriyat Shema. Ubaprat. אם יתפללו ערבית וקראו קריאת שמע בעוד יום שצריכים לחזור ולקרוא קריאת שמע בזמנה. Okay, so if you're going to, on Shabbat naturally sometimes you're going to daven early, especially in the summertime because you want to have the meal early, different varying factors over here. Then you've got to go back and say the Kriyat Shema for the night time for sure. Over there. ואם הולך לישון, okay, ואם הולך לישון קודם חצות לילה, צריך גם לברך ברכת המפיל בשם ומלכות. Okay, very important I think. If someone goes to bed before the midpoint of the night, he must also recite the blessing of Hamapil in full, including Hashem's name. Forgiving others' transgressions, also on Shabbat. There's many people would do a special tachnun on when they're doing the Kriyat Shema in the night time, which I recommend for everyone to do. Halacha Zayin. Mutar lomar et nusach areni mochel moslech lechol mi ishachis. And so on. גם בלילי בשבתות בימים טובים. אך אין לומר את הבידוי בליל שבתות בימים טובים. Okay. Even on Shabbat or Yom Tov, it's allowed to recite the passage in which one forgives all those who have wronged him during the day. It's, however, forbidden to recite the confession of one's sins on those specific nights over here, naturally on Shabbat or on Yom Tov. So let's continue now. We're in another halakha, the Shabbat Shacharit prayers. Now we're in a new topic. Let's try and go through this. We've got time at the moment this morning. We are now in Siman 281. Dinei Tfilat Shacharit Shel Shabbat. Halakha Aleph. Yesh noagim lacha me'at et hazman Tfilat Shacharit b'Shabbatot b'yamim tovim ve'einom מקדימים להתפלל כמו בשעה ימי חול ומכל מקום צריך להיזהר שלא יעבור זמן קריאת שמע וזמן תפילה. Okay, so what's going on here in the Shacharit tefillot? Some kihilot have the custom of beginning the Shacharit prayers later in the morning on Shabbat than they do during the weekday. So naturally, especially in America, even in Israel, you'll find some minyan in the start 9:30 or 10, nothing wrong with it, because many circumstances entail that someone will have to daven later, especially on Saturday, on the Shabbat itself. So in Israel, many people will daven early. That's a practice. Also in Chutzar. So what's it? Okay. יש נוהגים לחם את זמן תפילת שחרית בשבתות בימים טובים ואינו מקדימים להתפלל כמו בשעה ימי חול. מכל מקום צריך להיזהר שלא יעבור זמן קריאת שמע וזמן תפילה. If you're going to daven a minyan later than the designated usual time over here, you should make sure you do not do the קריאת שמע after the permissible time you can do it. You don't want to do it too late. ובמקום צורך אפשר לסמוך על זמני קריאת שמע של הגר"א והחזון איש כפי שמופיע בלוחות מאחר שכן משמע בסידור רב סעדיה גאון. Okay, so it's actually important. If necessary, one may rely on the lenient opinion of the Gra and the Chazon Ish in calculating these specific times over here, since there are Rishonim who ruled likewise over here. Okay. ומכל מקום, נכון להנהיג לקרוא קריאת שמע קודם, ברוך שאמר, ולנות שאם לא יספיקו להגיע לקריאת שמע בברכותיה בזמנה, הרי הם מכוונים לצאת ידי חובתם בקריאת שמע שקוראים קודם, ברוך שאמר. What if you started late the minyan, and you've still got time, you haven't even done the Baruch Shema at this stage in time, you're still in Hodu a bit, and you've only got a few minutes left for Kriyat Shema, then do the Kriyat Shema seemingly before, and then you follow the correct code of conduct, the correct order within regards to Shacharit Tefillat over there, because you don't want to miss time of saying the Kriyat Shema over here. Now, running to the synagogue, are you allowed to do that on Shabbat itself? Press with time, can you do? Okay, bet, halacha bet, mitzvah larutz כשהולך לבית כנסת ואפילו בשבת שאסור לפסוע פסיעה גסה, מצווה לרוץ בהליכותו. On Shabbat itself, it's mitzvah to run, to have a liturgy to go to the Beit Knesset, because you're doing a Devar mitzvah here. Although you know you can't break a sweat on Shabbat for mundane purposes, but if it's coming to going to synagogue, then it's going to be allowed. Aval כשיוצא מבית כנסת, אסור לרוץ. When you're coming out of the Beit Knesset over there, then it's better not to run over here. Then you don't go running, then you can do a brisk walk and everything else. Shabbat talit, should you have a designated talit for Shabbat or not? What do we say? ראוי ונכון היכד אפשר שיהיה לאדם טלית גדול מיוחדת לשבת, נאה יותר משל טלית של חול. It's fitting to have a designated talit for Shabbat, even something that's more beautiful than the weekday one. ומעיקר הדין אין חיוב לקנות מעיל גשם מיוחד לשבת. Okay. It adds on over here. So naturally, it's nice, it's proper to actually purchase a talit specifically designated for Shabbat, something that's good, but there's no obligation to have a specific raincoat for Shabbat use. Naturally, it's going to be raining on Shabbat and something like that. You don't have to have a separate one for that. Okay, like Shabbat shoes people should have also. Traditional tunes for tefillot, should you do the traditional tunes or not in all different congregations? We've got so many fantastic minhagim all over Klal Yisrael, different congregations, different dominions, different people. Should you sing those songs or not, or introduce new tunes? Let's find out. Kavana gu litpalel b'Shabbat Yom Tov b'ni'ima u'b'negina v'marichim tefillah yotzet mish'ar yamim. Okay, so friends, it is well established custom to enhance the tefillot on Shabbat and Yom Tov with tunes and songs, and to recite them at a relaxed place, slower than on the weekdays over here. So you take your time, you go with song. All the different communities have different traditions and different amazing songs that go many hundreds of years. A lot of the tunes do, and in different congregations. Mikol makom, ein להאריך יותר מדי כדי שלא לגרום לטרוח ציבור, בפרט אם על ידי כן כך יעבור זמן קריאת שמע בתפילה כמובן. You shouldn't go too far overboard if it's going to mean that you're going to miss the time of Kriyat Shema, and if it's going to be pressing, it's going to be too difficult for some people, then it's problematic. You should know your audience, as I say. I remember one time I was davening in a modern Orthodox synagogue in my area in London, and there was a Hazan over there that just dragged out the service. And then at the end, actually a friend of his family, he came to the rabbi over there and said the guys destroyed me over here. Because he went on for a long time, then he had to go on over there. And so sometimes you should know your audience, who you are davening to in the congregation. Now we're in Halacha Hey over here. Added passages. Should he add passages? Some people say there's too much tefillot in some of these services. It's too long. Some people might not be happy if it's a short tefillah. Some people might want extended services where you can do more tefillot over here in many of the congregations also. So what's the code of conduct we use usually? Let's see what the second edition will say. Noagim להוסיף בשבת ביום טוב מזמור השמיים מספרים ועוד מזמורים לפי שאין ביטול מלאכה לעם. The custom is to add a number of chapters of Tehillim to the tefillot, as naturally it's printed in the Sidurim of Shabbat, since no one is in a rush necessarily to go to work. So you've got extra time to do extra tefillot, so why not? Extra tefillot, extra prayers, it's always good to add that in over here. So it's very much recommended, and there's a lot of reasons to do it. Halacha vav at the moment. Now we're talking about other tefillot. Ein omrim mizmor letodah b'Shabbat b'yom tov, elo omrim b'shnehem mizmor shel yom HaShabbat. וכשחל יום טוב בימי החול, דעת הבית יוסף להתחיל מפסוק טוב להודות להשם, ולא מפסוק מזמור של יום השבת. אך הנוהגים לאמרו יש להם על מה שיסמכו, אבל בכל המועד, גם של פסח, אומרים מזמור לתודה. We do not recite מזמור לתודה on Shabbat and Yom Tov. This is chapter 100 over here. In its place we recite מזמור של יום השבת on Shabbat and Yom Tov. The Shulchan Aruch ruled that when Yom Tov occurs on a weekday, one should omit the opening verse of chapter 92. But there's halachic basis to recite it even on those occasions. We do recite Mizmor L'Todah on Chol HaMoed of both Pesach and Sukkot. So Mizmor L'Todah, if I'm not mistaken, we do actually say it on the Friday nights in most of the congregations, I believe. But I think he's referring here to Shabbat morning, so I would double check this halacha, also halacha vav of Siman 281, because we do say, I think, on the Friday night, Mizmor L'Todah, again, yeah, we would say that on the Friday nights, but I think on the Shabbat morning we don't say it. Okay, so I think it's referring to Shabbat morning over here, but double check this also. I don't want to make a mistake, so to cover myself. Okay, halacha zayin over here of chapter 281. אין לדלג פסוק והוא רחום שבתוך יהי כבוד השם בשבת ויום טוב וכן המנהג. It is improper to delete the verse of והוא רחום from the conclusion or the passage of yehי kavod. The common custom is to recite it over here. Now we're talking about nishmat kol chai over here. What's the code of conduct for that? We say Nishmat Kol Chai or not? I think we all know the answer over here, especially people that go to the synagogue on Shabbat. After the Az Yoshit Tefillah song, naturally we say, we add on Nishmat Kol Chai, because after the coming out of Egypt, we should sing, when we do the Nishmat Tefillah, we should do it with a bursting of joy of song over here. So you should also do that specific text over here within regards to tefillah. So halacha tet at the moment. What if someone forgot to say the tefillah of nishmat kol chai? Im shachach lomar nishmat kol chai vivarech birkat yishtabach k'ma'asehu b'chol lo yama sham nishmat ele yamshich birkat yotzer. So if you actually forgot over here to recite the tefillah of nishmat kol chai, and instead you said yishtabach as it was a weekday, naturally you could when it's rolling from your tongue, the tefillah is, you can make a mistake. You should not recite the omitted passage before he begins the tefillah of the bracha of yotzer or. He should, okay. ואף שנתבאר בשבת, א', שיעמו נשמת בין ישתבח ליוצר, אחר שראינו בעיקרו, הדת של הכתב כן הוא עיקר לדינה. אוקיי. ואם נזכר אחר שהתחיל להשתבח, קודם שאמר ברוך אתה השם מלך גדול ומלוא בתשבחות, יחזור לנשמת ויגמור כסדר. Okay, so he should continue the tefillot with the bracha of Yotzer. But if he realized his omission before he uttered the closing words of Baruch Atah Hashem Melech Gadol U'Melo B'Teshuvot, he should go back and begin again from the beginning of the passage of Nishmat Kol Chai here. Then he should go back to that point in time. So now we are on halacha, at the moment halacha Yud over here, Siman 281, friends. What if you forgot to recite Hakol Yiducha? Okay. מי שכח לומר בברכת יוצא, הכל ידוחה, והמשיך בברכת יוצא כמעשהו בכל. אם נזכר קודם שחתם יוצר המאורות, חוזר ואומר הכל ידוך. ואם נזכר אחר שחתם יוצר המאורות, אינו חוזר. If someone mistakenly recited the weekday version of the tefillah of Yotzer Or, it's naturally, as I said before, he could actually make a mistake on Shabbat, but realized his error before he completed the bracha, he should go back to the passage of Hakol Yeducha and recite it over from that point again. If he already completed the bracha of Yotzer Marot, he may not repeat it then. Over here. Halacha Yud Aleph. גם בשבת ביום טוב צריך לסמוך גאולה לתפילה ואין לדבר ולהספיק בין גאולה לתפילה. ומכל מקום, אם שמע קדיש או קדושה בשבת בין גאולה לתפילה, עוסק ועונה עמהם, כמו בקריאת שמע ברכתיה. Okay, so what's going on here? The rule that we must begin the Shmon Esrei immediately upon finishing the bracha of Ga'al Yisrael applies on Shabbat and Yom Tov as well on the weekdays naturally. Therefore, one may not interrupt between the two tefillot to utter any other prayer. Nevertheless, on Shabbat or Yom Tov, if someone heard, let's say, the Kaddish or Kedusha, just as he completed the bracha of Ga'al Yisrael, he may respond as he would if he was in the midst of reciting the Shema Tefillah. Okay, last in Siman 281, the last halacha, Yud Bet. We're talking about what if someone's a latecomer coming to the Bet Knesset over here. Obviously, we know that it's very problematic. You don't want to come into a synagogue too late. I remember once when I was a kid going to this specific modern Orthodox synagogue, there was always a person that was the father was always coming in at 10:30. He was makbid to come inside the synagogue. And then it was funny, 10 years later, it happened to be his son was also, when he was after Bar Mitzvah, he had the tradition to come 10:30 also, right at the time when they were finishing the Kriyat Torah. So it's just an example of how people learn from their father's actions over here. Okay. מי שיאחל לבית כנסת בשבת שחרית ועליו לדלג או פסוקי דזמרה או נשמת כל חי כדי להתפלל בציבור, נכון יוצא שידלג נשמת כל חי ולא ידלג פסוקי דזמרה. כיוון שפסוקי דזמרה הווי תדיר ותדיר שאינו תדיר, תדיר קודם אף לדחות, ועוד שאמרת נשמת בשבת אינו אלא ממנהג הגאונים. Okay, so friends, what's going on here? If someone came late to synagogue on Shabbat morning and he finds that he must skip a portion of the tefillot in order to catch up with the congregation and recite the Shemona Esrei with everyone else over here, it's preferable to skip the passage, the paragraph of Nishmat Kol Chai rather than skip a portion of the Pesukei Zimra over here. So that would take precedence over here. You want to daven the Shemona Esrei with everyone else. The tefillot that we recite every day have precedence over the prayers we recite only once a week over here. Furthermore, the passage of Nishmat Kol Chai has no basis in the Gemara. It was composed naturally during the period of time of the Gaonim over here. So that is the time period where this was actually practiced over here. I think we're going to leave it here today, and we will continue now next time on Siman 282.